I've been doing these live streams now every Friday, which is, by the way, is a great day of the week. I love to do live streams, and because of my role as a podcast host with the Thoughtful Entrepreneur, I get to talk with some really cool people doing some incredibly innovative things. And so I'm so excited, Adam Riggs, to have you with me today. You're a podcast guest on the Thoughtful Entrepreneur, and then we started talking and kind of working, doing some stuff together. And what you and Frameable do solve some really big challenges in the workplace today. And I'm talking specifically about virtual and hybrid workplaces, or even when we're all together, but yet we're using technology to communicate together like never before. So much has been happening culturally. We look at like workplace culture and that sort of thing, expectations and demands of teams and employees and team members themselves, the challenges that leaders are facing with trying to maintain culture and, try to accomplish the goals. Like, man, there's been just so much, like where I think, especially, over the past few years, we've had to adapt so quickly. And some of those tools and technologies have not kept up with what we need today in the workplace. So I want to just kind of talk with you maybe about kind of the lay of the land, provide some great tips and advice. And then we'll kind of talk about, you work a lot with Microsoft Teams, and maybe that'll inspire some great ideas as well. And then, of course, we want to talk about where Frameable fits in with all of that, because what you've created with Frameable, again, as I mentioned, solves some really big problems today. So, Adam, thank you so much for doing this conversation.
Thank you, Josh. It's great to be here. You're absolutely right. The environment that we're in now, it's unlike 2019. It's unlike pre-pandemic, and it's also evolved from the harsh realities of the pandemic that we learned to sort of negotiate and live with. We're now in a sort of a third era. It's not pre-pandemic, it's not the pandemic, it's something new. It's kind of a mashup, and the reality is that the labor force, if you want to attract and retain the best talent, you need to have a certain amount of flexibility. You need to understand that, most people, and I mean 80% of people, do not want to be in the office 5 days a week. It's a very small percentage of people that really want to be in the office 5 days a week. It's put at about 20% right now. Everybody else wants a 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, or 4 days a week, or fully remote. But even 1 day a week, they are deterring the reality from what it was before. That's maybe not the best way to put it, but they are like trying to go to a different place than what it was in 2019, 5 days a week in the office.
So Adam, what's going on? How come it doesn't seem that employers seem to be winning this tug of war? Yeah. Why? I mean, I feel like I'm asking some obvious questions, but I'd really love your take on this. Why do you think that organizations, and specifically people that work within teams, are demanding working remotely and from home? Why is this so? I mean, again, I feel like it's kind of a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why do people want to work remotely when going into the office is, doggone it, that's awesome?
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of awesome things about working physically together with other people. I mean, we enjoy, we're human. We enjoy being with other humans. But the thing is that when you have the flexibility to work from home, on a day where you're working from home as opposed to in the office, or on a day when you're working in a location where there's no commute, you're saving about an hour a day on average. That's a national average figure from Nicholas Bloom, one of the leading researchers in this area, who works at Stanford as an economist. So with that 1 hour a day, 70 minutes a day, what is happening is about half of that time is going into more work, and the other half of that time is going into personal health, wellness, family commitments, and things like that. So this is truly a win-win for people. When they're able to work from home, or when they're able to work from a place with low to no commute, they are basically giving half of that savings to the company, working hard for the company, doing extra work for the company for half of it. And then for the other half, they are able to, improve themselves, improve the life of their household, improve the life of their family, their kids, their health, etc. So this all seems like win-win-win. But the countervailing pressures are, first of all, companies have large real estate footprints, and they feel, for some legitimate reasons and for some, maybe not, that it's a waste if it's not used. So that's the first challenge. And then the second challenge, which is, I think, more fundamental to people accepting remote work as a normal thing, is that it's not true, but they believe it's true, that you can only achieve the highest levels of creativity, the highest levels of innovation, and really build esprit de corps on a team if they're physically together. So I don't believe that's true. Our company builds technology that we think basically disproves that. But that is what people are used to as bosses, as leaders. They're used to seeing people working physically together. And so they believe that the best parts of collaboration are only available when people are working physically together. And the reason why that's hard for the employees and the colleagues to accept is that they just did it for 2+ years, and they feel, and in many cases actually it's true, that they did a good job. So the recent history of how businesses performed during the pandemic kind of undermines the argument that it's necessary for people to be in person. But there are these countervailing forces, the existence of the real estate commitment, and just you read a lot about what's happening in downtowns, in downtown New York, downtown San Francisco, downtown Washington, D.C. There are a lot of collateral. There's a lot of collateral damage or collateral sort of changes, that derivative changes that are taking place as a result of people working from home and not commuting. And so it's just a fraught topic, and strong positions on both sides.
Yeah. And so to our friend, by the way, that's watching this, the vast majority kind of catch this afterwards. But if you happen to be watching this live or see this live, regardless if it's, you know that the recording is ended, you're watching this right now, post your questions or comments below. I really love your take on what you believe. To our viewer here, to our friend, what do you believe the future of work to be? And what your opinion, to, again, we have a lot of business leaders in our audience. What are your plans over the next 3 to 5 years? Because Adam, I think it's going to be pretty important that we stay forward thinking, right? That we stay ahead of this curve. And I know that one of the biggest challenges that I think that leaders are facing are retention, hiring, culture, creating a better environment where we want the best of both worlds. When you were sharing about, the fact that we can have all of our team members take back and get an extra 30 minutes of their time and be able to invest into, their personal lifestyle and well-being. I love that. I think every leader wants that. That's magic. That's like free time. It's like a gift for everybody. Like, you would think that would be an incentive to be a better employer. But what are some of these kind of cultural touch points or observations that you've seen in terms of attraction, retention, hiring, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, the most interesting finding that I've seen from labor economists that study the labor market in this era, is that I read that people value that opportunity, not just in an abstract way. They don't just answer on a survey like, yes, I would like that. They actually, when they're presented with the chance to make trade-offs to achieve that schedule, people are actually willing to undergo a 7 to 8% pay cut to get a 2 to 3 days a week hybrid schedule. So this is putting a real number on the amount of value that people place on having that flexibility. Now, if you're if you're in the C-suite, or if you're a leader at a larger company, and you are struggling every day with like, I need to attract the best talent, I need to retain the best talent. I mean, that's not a new challenge. That was true in 2019 as well. But now that the expectations have shifted, now that people are saying, hey, it's not just that I want it, I'm actually willing to pay for it out of my own compensation. That's a very strong signal to the leadership that we're going to have to figure out what we can do to take a step in this direction. We're not going to sacrifice the well-being of the company or the results of the company, but we have to be willing to try things. And so I think what you're going to see over the next 3 to 5 years is you're going to see companies start to distinguish themselves into two groups. Companies that want to live in the prior era, and they're not really flexible and they're not really willing to try new things because they want to do what they know worked before, and they want to pretend that we're living in an era that's similar. And I think that is going to be a diminishing group. And then the other group is going to be the group of companies where the leaders are more aware and they are more realistic, and they just understand that there is a set of things that they can try. Not everything's going to work equally well for all companies, but there's a set of things they can try and that they need to try so that they can find their footing in this new era. It might be true that there are a few companies in each industry that have so much clout, so much brand power that they can just say, nope, we're not trying any of that stuff and we don't need to try any of that stuff. It might be true that in every industry there are one or a couple, but not everyone works for those. And honestly, if you're number 2 in the industry and the number 1 is saying, okay, everyone's in the office 5 days a week, and the number 2 is saying, hey, we're number 2 right now, but we take talent management seriously and we want you to come. We're going to be flexible for you. And our plan is to use this flexibility to be number 1. I mean, that's a pretty compelling tip. So
it really is. Again, I think most leaders are pretty concerned about staying ahead of the puck on this one. So that said, there are virtual platforms that are really filling these gaps pretty well. They're not perfect, but would you mind kind of giving us a lay of the land of when I talk about kind of these virtual workplaces, virtual platforms that we can use to collaborate better? And then, of course, Microsoft Teams. Microsoft's been pretty bullish on this, and they've, I don't know if you can kind of give us a lay of the land on that.
Sure. So there are many iterations that I won't describe, but I'll describe sort of 2 different, what we would call technology work stacks, okay? Stacks of software that people put together to provide their digital communications infrastructure. They need an email client, right? They need a video client for having video meetings, or webinars. They need a text chat client for sending messages, mostly internally, and they need a calendar. Right. So those are like what I see as the 4 building blocks of digital communications infrastructure. And the first stack that provides all of that smaller companies tend to use because it's a bit easier on the admin side. It's a bit easier to set up and a bit easier to get started, basically. Is maybe Google or Zoom for video, and Google for calendar, and then text chat might be Slack. So that's a very normal technology stack: Zoom, Google, and Slack, providing those pieces of infrastructure. Now, you could use Google Video instead of Zoom. You could use Google Chat instead of Slack. But in terms of the dominant provider in the category that's not Microsoft, Zoom and WebEx are basically, number 2, number 3, depending on how you count. Zoom and WebEx are on the video front. And then there are a bunch of email providers and clients out there, but a lot of people do use Google. And then for calendar, there are a bunch, but a lot of people do use Google. Now, the second stack, which is also used by small companies, but it has a much larger percentage of the market share for large companies is the Microsoft stack. So when we talk about the Microsoft stack, we're talking about Outlook for email and for calendar. And then we're talking about what they now call Microsoft Teams for the other two pieces, which is the video meeting piece and the text chat piece. So that's how I sort of see the landscape. Like, there are people who are using Microsoft for everything except for text chat. They still use Slack. Slack was bought by Salesforce, and there are other reasons to use Slack. So we do meet clients like that who say, yes, I have all of that in Microsoft except for text chat. Or you might meet companies that say, yeah, we have all of that in Microsoft except we don't use Outlook, we use some other client. But it's a huge percentage, something like 90% of the Fortune 100 and 65% of the Fortune 500 are sort of Microsoft committed. So obviously that's, it's a big world, and there's plenty of market opportunity for other providers, and these other companies are very big. But when it comes to the stack and the way Microsoft bundles their software, it's very easy to understand like the value. It's like, well, I'm already paying for Excel, I'm already paying for Word,
yes,
I'm paying for PowerPoint. I'm just going to buy a bundle of this stuff, and then I'm not going to have to pay some other vendor for a piece of it. So that's why they've gone from basically zero or negligible market share to 300 million licenses in 5 years.
Yeah. Well, and so I certainly know, so some enterprise level companies and some mid-market companies that we work with are definitely, they're running everything on Teams. Is there, I guess, what I want to ask you about Teams is, is it suitable for SMBs as well? And then based on that, I'll have you maybe kind of share, anything else in terms of strengths or weaknesses of the platform, which then, of course, opens up a huge opportunity for the technology that you've created with Frameable. Right.
Okay. So to answer your question, absolutely, the Microsoft stack, we'll call it, is totally suitable for small businesses. It's flexible. You have many packages to choose from. It depends on what you're comfortable with. I think pricing is pretty competitive with the piecing together the other stack. It's not going to be necessarily the most affordable way to go. Like, Microsoft is very competitive on price. They're trying to really provide all of the pieces. And for some small companies, that don't have idiosyncratic needs, or don't have who are pretty right down the middle when it comes to their expectations about how this software can work, Microsoft delivers a fantastic product. There are many, like millions of companies that use Microsoft that have, say, less than 50 employees, that don't use anything in the first stack that I described. They don't use Zoom, they don't use Slack, they don't use Google. They just do it in Microsoft, and Microsoft services that segment of the market very well. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Frameable and where Frameable fits in and fills a gap that exists in Teams.
Yeah, great. Well, what we've done is we've taken the out-of-the-box functionality that you get from Microsoft in those two products, Teams and Outlook, and we have we have analyzed the out-of-the-box functionality, and we have sort of identified some challenging areas that we believe we could improve. And then we set about building applications that run inside Microsoft Teams that really improve the experience. So these applications, 5 different applications that are, there's 4 views here, and then there's a 5th element too, which kind of is underneath several of them. These opportunities for improvement, they live inside Microsoft Teams. So you would install them into your Teams client, like with the permission and cooperation of your admin. And then these things would allow you to have much more visibility, much more situational awareness much more of a sort of updated view of whole teams of people, et cetera. Like just several pieces of functionality that Microsoft just does not include and did not build. But we felt like there was enough of a need for some of these different views and different functions that we went ahead and used Microsoft's APIs, which is exactly what they want us to do, to build new apps and new products, and then to offer them through the App Store, through the Microsoft App Store, for people who are interested. So that's how it works. You don't have to install all of them. You can just pick the ones that are interesting for you. And we're really improving the day-to-day experience for the people who use Microsoft Teams and Outlook.
Yeah. Is what we just saw on the screen there, is this kind of native Microsoft Teams, or are we looking at Frameable?
Yeah. So yeah, if you could pause it right there, maybe.
Yeah. This is really cool. Like I've not gone into Teams at this level, but how awesome is this? Like it just makes it feel more real for me when I'm thinking about the people that I'm working with.
Yeah. So if you can you scroll back without pause? Like, can you scroll back and then pause it there?
Yeah. Sorry, okay. It puts a big play button there, but
that's okay. No, but what I want to show is that this blue frame across the top, and then the sidebar there that you might be able to highlight with your mouse. This is what's called the Chrome or the console view for Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams is available in the browser, or it's also available. Alternately, it's available as an application. Yeah. So just go back a little bit more because I want to show the sidebar.
Yeah.
A little bit more.
Let's see if I go back. This is so on the fly, by the way, Adam. Thank you for.
I want to see
talk about this.
I want to see the bar on the left-hand side.
Right like now, this stuff right here.
I can't see it on the screen.
Yeah, I know. Activity, chat, Teams, Spaces, calendar.
Exactly. Okay, so you can see that. I think just off the view for me.
Yeah, no. I can see it.
So when you install our applications, you will get a new piece of real estate on the left-hand side of Teams. And this is how a lot of software works, is that you, for Teams applications, like some of them work in the background and in other ways, but some of them put a new piece of real estate there in your actual top level, navigation, which is in the sidebar. So if you have our stuff installed, at your company, then you would get to it just from your Teams console. And then all these other views that you're seeing, where you're seeing this, you have so much peripheral vision. You're seeing where people are and who they're with and what they're talking about. And possibly you'll have a way to join them. Possibly it's just for your situational awareness. Like those are settings that people can, make meeting by meeting. But what we're aiming for here is to bring the full spectrum of interaction types that are available to people when they're working in person to distributed work.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Okay. So what, and let me just kind of pull up your main site here. And we've put the URL on the page as well. So it's frameable.com/spaces.
Yeah.
And then I honestly, you need just to watch this video with the sound, and you can kind of see everything to our friend that's watching this conversation, because we're not going to go too in depth into this, but you need to see it in action. Adam, would you maybe talk about like how demos work and like who's appropriate for that?
Yeah. Excuse me. We have an amazing team of experts who do private demos with you. So basically you would pick a slot on the schedule that works for you. We limit them to half an hour. We can always cut it short if it doesn't look like a fit, or if you don't have that much time, we're happy to do a shorter version. But basically you would just pick a slot that works. And then we would love to have a conversation with you. We can show you what we can do, listen to you explain, of course, what are your needs and which are the pieces of the puzzle that we build that might help meet those needs. And then lastly, if there's anyone listening who is in the business of selling Microsoft licenses
Oof.
for a
Yeah.
living. That's how we service our customers, is through the very well developed and very mature Microsoft ecosystem. So our job is to educate the end users, to establish fit, and then ultimately we facilitate an engagement, through the same place that you already buy your Microsoft products from. So we make it very easy for you.
Yeah, pretty important stuff. And Adam, for someone that and I know we just have a couple minutes left. If you are not yet on Teams, you could still have a meaningful conversation, I would assume, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we can help you understand what the opportunities are
Mhm.
to switch to Teams.
Well, that's cool because I suspect that a lot of us could start racking up challenges that we're having trying to run our companies on, Google, Zoom, and
Yeah.
Slack.
Yeah.
That's
I
our
mean,
stack.
yeah.
And trust me when I say there's challenges. So,
Yeah.
Boy, that would be great just to kind of, bounce some ideas off you and your team in terms of like, are we ready for Teams? And if so, just try to think about, how we can solve some of those challenges, create a more cohesive, integrated workplace experience virtually, give our teams the freedom so that they don't have to be physically in the office all the time. And then
Yeah.
certainly if we can empower them so we can accomplish that, because that's what they're asking for.
Yeah.
And I think ideally we want to thread that needle as well. So this is fantastic. Really, really cool stuff. And like I said, I was just, the more I learned about the platform, I know that there's people that are really struggling with you. This solves some major challenges right now. Like
Yeah.
people that are talking about, turnover, and just because they're losing that connection
Yeah.
with their people, these are really expensive problems that Frameable solves.
And they're expensive problems to solve once catastrophe happens. Like, people are going to, like, the leadership is not going to get a memo that says the building's on fire. What's going to happen is they're going to have their quarterly meeting with HR, or they're going to be reviewing the stats, and instead of 65% of people accepting their offers that quarter, only 29% did. And instead of attrition being 4% last quarter, it's going to be 14%. And quarter after month, quarter after quarter, the new reality is going to come to every company in the form of people exercising their preferences and making their preferences known. It's not going to be a single emergency event. It's going to be something that takes a little while to unfold, and that it's going to be all the harder, because it's not going to be like, let's make a war room and fix this like it's some type of sysadmin or IT challenge. It's going to be, okay, this is a people problem in a way, and we have to
Absolutely.
in a thoughtful way, and that takes time. It takes patience, and it's going to take as long to solve as it took to make.
Adam Riggs, I know I need to get you out of here. You got a busy day. I want to say thank you so much for doing this live stream. Again, the website, go to frameable.com, or you can go to frameable.com/spaces. You can watch the demo. We watched the video that I showed you just a little clip of there. So you can see what this looks like. Start imagining how this might, work for your team. And then by all means, please grab some time. Adam's a good guy. His team is amazing. We work with you, Adam, and we love that. And we're so grateful for that opportunity. But again, these are big, expensive problems that if you don't start thinking about this now and start making a plan and taking action on this, it's just going to continue to compound on itself. So that's why I was pretty excited and enthusiastic about having this conversation in this venue. So hopefully we can make some really great connections, help solve some big problems. But yeah, grab a demo, ask your questions, even if you're still on a different stack and you're not yet on Microsoft Teams, kind of talk it out. Adam, that's very gracious of you to kind of provide some guidance on that side of it as well. So Adam Riggs, founder CEO of Frameable. Please.
I just want to, my closing thought is that, smaller companies have a lot of built-in advantages over larger companies. They're more agile. You could think of this as a way of amplifying those advantages. I mean, this allows you to be even more nimble, even more agile, even more communicative with your team. You already have a specific set of challenges because you're smaller. You don't have as many resources. You need to use your time wisely and be more focused. But all of the advantages of being a small and nimble team can be amplified, but we can help amplify it versus what you get out of the box, which is really, that's what the big companies get out of the box too. So you have an opportunity to amplify your advantages when you consider things like this as well.
I love it. Adam Riggs, again, thank you so much for joining us. The website, again, frameable.com. If you have any questions or any tips or, on how you're working with your remote teams, comment below too. Even if you're watching this after the fact, I'll see this questions. I'll pass it along, Adam, to you and your team. But Adam, thank you so much for this Friday afternoon, recording a quick session with me here and helping some good folks. Have a wonderful weekend, friends. And Adam, you too, have a wonderful